What if you had to choose one of these deadliest planets to live on? What would be your destiny? Brace yourself, because what you are about to discover will challenge everything you knew about the cosmos and the fragility of human life. These planets are not just hostile, they are truly deadly. Survival in any of them would be, at the very least, a miracle. But why are we willing to take the risk of imagining what would happen if we had to live outside of Earth? What could make us want to explore the far reaches of the universe, where the laws of physics and extreme conditions could destroy us at any moment? Human curiosity has always been driven by the search for the unknown. Since ancient times, we have been attracted by stars, by distant planets, by galaxies that seem to stretch into infinity. But what happens when our curiosity takes us to places where life is practically impossible? And if you were forced to choose, which of these inhospitable worlds would be the least deadly? Where would you go? Or rather, would it be possible to survive there? This is not a simple question, and the answer may be more terrifying than you imagine. Let's embark together on a cosmic journey where human life is a mere mirage, and the fight for survival is beyond what any human being has ever experienced. Get ready to discover some of the most dangerous planets in the known universe. Planets that, if you tried to inhabit, could be fatal in a matter of seconds. Each of them presents a unique threat that challenges even the most advanced limits of science and technology. We used to think that Earth was our safe home, but the truth is that when we look at the vast space, we are nothing more than a mere blue dot in the midst of the immensity. When we look at these deadly planets, we are faced with a disconcerting truth. The cosmos doesn't care about us, but what will happen if it becomes necessary to live in one of these worlds? The choice is not easy, and the consequences would be devastating. With each planet we explore, you will be surprised by the intensity of the conditions that these places impose on their inhabitants. Think for a moment. Would you be able to survive on a planet where the heat is so extreme that even metal melts? Or perhaps in a world where the atmospheric pressure is so intense that your body would be crushed before it could even react? These planets are not just dangerous, they defy everything we know about biology and physics. What if you were forced to live in a place where crushing gravity would deform your bones and tissues? What if, instead of a familiar, welcoming environment, you had to brave an alien terrain where biting winds and deadly radiation make simply breathing an impossible task? These worlds are not only enemies of human life, they are the very ghosts of our cosmic understanding. Planets like Venus, with its suffocating atmosphere and temperatures of up to 500 degrees Celsius, where acid rain is not a fantasy, but a daily reality. Or maybe you'd rather try to survive on Jupiter, a gas giant, where the only danger is being swallowed by a radiation storm so powerful it could reduce a human being to dust. And what about Neptune, with its supersonic winds and temperatures so low that any life form would enter a state of instantaneous freezing? The reality is that living on these planets is simply a utopia for the desperate, a scenario that challenges our very understanding of survival. What if I told you that when choosing one of these deadly planets, you would have to face the harsh reality that Earth would be a distant dream? What would you do? How would you survive, knowing that the air you breathe is toxic, the ground beneath your feet is trying to destroy you with every step? The truth is that as we explore these planets, we not only face a fight for survival, but we are also forced to confront our own insignificance in the face of the immensity of the universe. Now imagine you had to make a decision. Which of these planets would be your new home? Venus, with its sulfuric acid atmosphere and relentless heat? Or Jupiter, the gas giant with centuries-long storms and enough radiation to wipe out any form of life in seconds? Or perhaps Neptune, where life simply could not exist unless you were able to withstand the freezing winds and extreme temperatures that would quickly turn you into a frozen block of ice? Would any of these planets be a viable option? Or would it be wiser to accept that Earth, with all its problems, is still the only home we can truly call our own? As we continue exploring these worlds, one thought persists. Would it be possible somehow to survive in these environments? Science says no, but our curiosity pushes us to keep asking. And that's exactly what you're about to discover. Because if there's anything the universe teaches us, it's that we should never underestimate the power of human curiosity. And along this journey, you'll see that sometimes the greatest mysteries can come from where we least expect them. Now get ready to learn the terrifying details of each of these deadly planets. Let's begin our cosmic journey and see what it would be like if human life was forced to face these worlds where the impossible seems just the beginning. Stay tuned, because what comes next may surprise you more than you ever imagined. But before continuing, don't forget to leave a like to learn more about the mysteries of the universe. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so you don't miss the next videos that will further explore these and other cosmic phenomena. The journey is just beginning. Let's go for this. Now imagine yourself traveling through deep space, crossing the confines of our solar system and heading towards one of the deadliest planets that have ever been identified by science. A planet that, if you had to choose to live, your existence would be brief and unbearable. Let's start the journey with Venus, one of the most enigmatic and at the same time most inhospitable planets that exists within our own solar system. When you imagine a planet, you usually think of something distant, something with a relatively stable and even life-friendly environment like Earth, right? But the truth is, when you look at Venus, you would see a world that makes even the most terrifying science fiction films seem like a walk in the park. Venus, this intriguing and frightening planet, is at a distance of about 128 million kilometers from Earth. It is so close to our planet, but at the same time so far from the possibility of life. Venus's atmosphere is very dense, composed mainly of carbon dioxide, which creates a brutal greenhouse effect. This means that the temperature on the surface of Venus can reach a staggering 500 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt even metals like lead. The heat is unbearable, and you wouldn't be able to survive more than a few seconds without being consumed by this scorching inferno. The atmospheric pressure on Venus is about 90 times greater than on Earth. Imagine being under the weight of pressure, so intense that your bones and tissues would be instantly crushed. With every breath you take, you would feel like you are sinking into an ocean of acid, and don't think that rain would be comforting. In fact, Venus's clouds are made up of sulfuric acid, which is not only corrosive but also leads to the formation of violent storms and cyclones that cause large-scale destruction. Every second you would spend on Venus, the risk to your life would be imminent, and the idea that any human being could survive there would be pure science fiction. There is no way to escape this deadly planet without being consumed by its extreme conditions. Seems impossible, right? But think about it. Current science tells us that Venus was once a planet with oceans and even an atmosphere more similar to Earth's. Billions of years ago, conditions on Venus might have been much more hospitable, but the runaway greenhouse effect turned it into the hell we know today. Imagine a planet that one day may have been a second Earth, but because of solar radiation and a series of catastrophic events, it became a true nightmare for any form of life. Now the only thing left is a barren, stuffy, oxygen-free world where any attempt to survive would become a struggle against the forces of the universe. Imagine how terrifying it would be to try to breathe in this environment. Without oxygen, you would quickly run out of air, and the crushing pressure of the atmosphere would begin to crush your ribcage, making breathing impossible. The feeling of suffocation would become unbearable, and your flesh would begin to be torn apart by the intense heat and relentless conditions that dominate the planet. There's no time to fight. There is no time to escape. With each moment you spent in this hellish environment, the risk to your life would be greater, until finally you surrendered to the uncontrollable force of Venus. Now, stop for a moment and imagine the scene in detail. You are in a spacesuit, but it is not enough to resist the forces of Venus. You look around and see a horizon that seems to stretch forever, without end, a barren and lifeless landscape. You feel the heat begin to consume you, and you realize that every second on Venus is a death sentence. The heat is so strong that even the material of your suit starts to melt. The sensation of suffocation is so intense that you can almost hear your own body writhing in agony. The air, thick and poisonous, cannot be breathed, and acid storms begin to approach, destroying everything in their path. Fear takes over every cell in your body. Is this the end? Death, there, on the deadliest planet the universe could offer. Now tell me, what would you do if you were forced to choose a planet like this to live on? Would you have the strength to withstand the pressure and heat? With every second on Venus, your body would begin to give out, and the fight for survival would be a meaningless battle. This planet, where everything seems to be trying to destroy it, would be the last thing you would choose. Your life would be at risk every second, and in the end there would be nothing that could be done to escape this cruel fate. On Venus, you would be just a victim of the cosmos, a small part of an immense and merciless universe. But what if you had to live on another planet, even more deadly, but with different challenges? What would life be like in a place where the stars seem to shine so brightly that when you look at them, you feel as if you are being watched by unknown forces? The universe is vast and mysterious, and planets like Venus are just a reminder of how small we are in the face of the magnitude of the cosmos. Would it be possible to find a place where human life could endure, or would we be forced to accept that our existence here on Earth is a true miracle? With each planet we explore, we are faced with a new mystery, a new fight for survival. But the question remains, which planet would be the worst to live on, and how do we humans deal with these extreme environments? Stay tuned, because the next planet we explore will be even more shocking, and the living conditions on it will defy everything you thought possible. Let's continue our journey and find out what happens when you are forced to live in one of the deadliest places in the universe. Is there any planet we can call home, or are we all destined to be consumed by the relentless forces of the cosmos? Don't leave now, as the mystery is just beginning. But before moving on to the next planet, leave your opinion in the comments below. If you had to choose one of these deadly planets to live on, what would your destination be? Don't forget to comment. This is very important to strengthen the channel, and so that we can bring more impactful and curious content like this. Now that you've had a glimpse of the hellish conditions of Venus, prepare to be thrown even deeper into the vastness of the universe, where danger and the impossible become a frightening reality. Our journey now takes us to Jupiter, the gas giant that dominates our solar system, and which so immense seems like a distant titan, observing the smaller planets with a silent and powerful threat. If you thought Venus was ruthless, get ready, as Jupiter brings an even darker and more elusive threat. Jupiter is a true cosmic monstrosity. With a diameter of approximately 93,000 miles, it is the largest planet in the solar system, surpassing Earth by more than 1,000 times. But don't be fooled by its majestic and imposing appearance. This planet does not have a solid surface. Instead, its enormous mass is mostly made up of gases like hydrogen and helium, creating a dense, turbulent atmosphere where violent storms last for centuries. Imagine being in an environment with no solid ground beneath your feet, floating in a sea of corrosive, unchanging gases, where any attempt to establish a base would be absolutely impossible. But Jupiter's real threat isn't just its lack of surface. The greatest danger comes from its intense radiation. Jupiter has a magnetic field 16 times stronger than Earth's, creating a barrier of cosmic radiation so intense that any person or equipment that tried to approach it recklessly would be destroyed without mercy. Imagine trying to get close to a planet where cosmic rays are so powerful that they could easily destroy the most advanced electronics, or even instantly kill astronauts who dare to get close. Jupiter's radiation is of such magnitude that it becomes a nightmare for any exploration mission. There is no way to survive this radiation without protection at levels so advanced that they are not even available with current technology. This means there is no place to hide, no safe haven. Now visualize the scene. You are inside a space capsule, traveling across the entire solar system with Jupiter in front of you. You try to get as close as possible to study the planet, but as you get closer, the monitors start to set off alarms, warning you of the increasing radiation. Jupiter's magnetic field begins to interfere with communications, and every minute you feel the pressure increasing. You can't get down as there is no solid surface to land on, but still, you are being drawn towards the planet, towards an approaching colossal cosmic storm. What do you feel? The impotence of being at the mercy of such an immense natural force? Or the terror of realizing that, despite all your training and preparation, you have no control over any of this? On Jupiter, cosmic radiation is not the only threat. Its fierce storms, with winds that can reach more than 600 kilometers per hour, are capable of disintegrating any spacecraft that is not equipped with the most advanced protection. Imagine being trapped in a storm like that, unable to get out, just being dragged by the immeasurable forces of the planet. Jupiter is an immeasurable planet in every way, and any attempt to live there would be certain damnation. He calls you, but at the same time he rejects you with a deadly hug. And what about Jupiter's moons like Io, which is one of the most volcanically active places in the solar system, with hundreds of active volcanoes? Or Europa, which, although encased in a layer of ice, hides beneath its oceanic surface a completely different world, full of possibilities and mysteries, but also of unknown dangers. Life there, if it exists at all, is being constantly tormented by Jupiter's gravitational forces, making any attempt at exploration even more risky. These moons, like the planet itself, are like cosmic traps that make any attempt at human conquest impossible, Try to imagine for a moment the sensation of being crushed by this immensity of radiation and chaotic winds. You can barely maintain control of the ship. The radiation currents slam against the structure, and every communication that tries to be made is interrupted. The storms that form in Jupiter's radiation belt are so violent that it is impossible to predict whether the spacecraft will survive them. And you are there, alone, at the mercy of this gigantic threat. The reality of Jupiter is something no human being could endure for long. Even with all our technology, we do not have the means to survive in the most extreme conditions that this planet imposes. Now ask yourself, if you had to choose between Venus with its suffocating atmosphere and deadly heat, or Jupiter with its devastating radiation and relentless storms, which would you choose? Both planets are deadly, but the threats from Jupiter are so immense that any choice would be an instant death sentence. There is no chance of escape, and even if you were a highly trained astronaut, radiation and storms would be your biggest enemies. What seems impossible becomes a terrifying reality. This is the real universe that surrounds us, a place where natural forces make no concessions, and any attempt to inhabit these worlds results in a constant struggle for survival. Think for a moment about how the universe, with all its vastness and mysteries, offers these planets as a reminder of how insignificant we are in the face of such cosmic forces. Every planet, every star, every black hole is a warning, a demonstration of the overwhelming power of the cosmos. But despite all the terror that these worlds can cause us, humanity continues its relentless quest to explore space, explore the limits of the universe, and who knows, find a new home. However, until then, are we prepared to deal with what these worlds present to us? Or are we just playing with forces beyond our understanding? The real question is, would you have the courage to face Jupiter or any other deadly planet? Or would you take refuge in the idea that space still has mysteries waiting to be unlocked? Mysteries that might one day help us understand our own place in the cosmos. But for now, we need to continue our journey, because the next planet we explore is even more mysterious and fraught with even greater dangers. Stay with us as we uncover yet another secret of the universe. Now that you've had the chance to explore the intensity of Jupiter, get ready for an even deeper dive into the far reaches of the universe, where one of the most extreme planets science has ever known awaits. As we continue our journey through this immense cosmos, we arrive at Neptune, a world so inhospitable and icy that even the idea of human exploration there becomes completely unthinkable. This planet, which is located at a distance of approximately 4.5 billion kilometers from Earth, is one of the most distant and mysterious worlds in our solar system. Despite its blue and calm appearance, Neptune hides a true force of nature. It is a true ice giant, a planet where human survival as we know it would simply have no place. As we approach Neptune, you can visualize a landscape that looks more like an intergalactic nightmare. With freezing temperatures that can reach less than 200 degrees Celsius, Neptune is a planet that defies any conception of the possibility of life. If you were released into its atmosphere without the proper protective equipment, the biting cold would immediately begin to freeze your flesh. Your lungs, trying to process the frigid air composed mainly of hydrogen and helium, would be unable to withstand the extreme pressure, and your breathing would be suffocated before you had time to react. There is no way to escape Neptune's cruel fate. With every second you spent in this icy world, the risk to your life would multiply. But what makes Neptune even more terrifying isn't just the relentless cold that envelops the planet. It is a world dominated by supersonic winds, with speeds that can reach an impressive 2,100 kilometers per hour. Imagine being enveloped by a current of air so strong, so relentless, that it would be like being in the middle of a storm of absolute destruction. These winds, moving at very high speeds, could easily uproot any ship that approached or destroy any structure that tried to gain a foothold on the planet. They are so powerful that they could tear a spaceship to pieces without warning. And even worse, these winds are powered by radiation from the sun, which, in Neptune, still reaches the planet, but in a much more diffuse and distant way. This means that although the planet is cold, it is not completely devoid of cosmic energy. Rather, it is diffuse and full of chaotic forces that make survival even more impossible. Imagine then being in a space capsule, traveling to Neptune. What you see as you approach is a thick layer of distant frozen clouds with a vibrant blue color that deceives the observer into giving the impression of a calm that doesn't exist. But as you get closer, you notice the tension starts to rise. The winds begin to roar, the sound of a distant storm begins to approach, and then just when you think you're about to reach the stability of Neptune's orbit, the violent winds and atmospheric pressure start to cause the ship to move uncontrollably. Storms begin to form around you, and with every minute you feel the increasing intensity of Neptune's threat. There is nowhere to hide, no solid surface to land on, just the emptiness and chaos of a cosmic storm that could never be weathered without a gigantic risk of destruction. Little by little, your ship begins to be challenged by the intense air currents. Its structure begins to creak as if it were about to be torn apart by the planet's unbeatable strength. The feeling of helplessness is overwhelming, as if the planet itself was swallowing you. You are tossed from side to side, like a leaf in the wind, with no control over direction, as Neptune's fierce storms continue their relentless devastation. The biting cold penetrates the gaps of your ship, and the pressure on the walls of your capsule becomes unbearable. Every second seems like an eternity, a constant fight to stay alive, but without any real chance of escaping. Neptune, with its immensity and destructive forces, demonstrates that human survival there is simply impossible. Now, imagine how desperate it would be to be in Neptune, without the slightest chance of adapting. With every breath, the frigid air would be a death sentence, and the biting winds would give no rest. There would be no time to fight. There would not even be time to react before the combination of intense cold, violent winds, and crushing atmospheric pressure ended any chance of survival. On Neptune, even the most advanced astronaut, equipped with the best technology available, would not have the slightest chance of surviving. The forces of nature there are so implacable that the human body would find itself completely powerless in the face of them. With its enormous atmospheric pressure and supersonic winds, Neptune is undoubtedly one of the most hostile planets in the solar system. Although science still seeks to understand more about the mysteries of Neptune and its moons, such as Triton, which could hide underground oceans and perhaps even life forms, the truth is that any attempt to get close or live there would be cosmic suicide. The planet is dominated by a natural force that cannot be contained, a force that is beyond human reach. Attempting life on Neptune is not only impractical, but a real and deadly threat to any human being who would dare defy the laws of physics and nature. The real question is, what would you do if you were stuck in a situation like this? How would you react to a planet so deadly that death would be inevitable? The vastness of the cosmos shows us that life is often a miracle, but it also teaches us that the universe, with all its mysteries and wonders, is not made for the weak. He challenges us, tests us, puts us face to face with the impossible, and Neptune, with its chaotic and deadly atmosphere, is just one of many examples of how merciless cosmic nature can be. Now, if you're wondering what could be worse than Neptune, I invite you to continue our journey. Get ready, because the next planet we explore could be even more terrifying. The truth about survival in the cosmos is just beginning to be revealed, and the mysteries that await are not for the faint of heart. Stay in your armchair as we go deeper into one of the greatest adventures ever undertaken by humanity. Now, as we reach the end of this journey, I want you to stop for a moment and think about everything we just explored. With so many deadly planets around us, what would be their fate? What would you do to survive in one of these hostile worlds where death seems to lurk every second? With each planet, with each choice, we were confronted with the terrifying reality of how unforgiving and inhospitable the cosmos in all its grandeur can be. Venus, Jupiter, Neptune. These cosmic giants are just a fraction of what the universe has to offer in terms of challenges, mysteries, and dangers. As you reflect on these extreme worlds, you begin to wonder, if humanity had to choose a new home, where would it be? We're not just talking about exploring planets where life could one day flourish, like on Mars, but worlds where survival seems an impossibility. And the question becomes even more intriguing and even frightening. Are we really capable of surviving in the cosmos? Or are we just playing with forces we don't understand, trying to defy the laws of physics, biology, and nature itself? Venus, with its infernal heat and poisonous atmosphere, is a planet where even metal melts. Jupiter, with its relentless radiation and supersonic winds, challenges us to imagine what it would be like to weather a cosmic storm so destructive that any attempt at exploration would be guaranteed suicide. Neptune, with its violent winds and freezing temperatures, is a place where time stretches into an eternal nightmare, where life has no room to thrive. And these are just some of the many planets that make up the vast and unexplored universe. But what do these discoveries tell us about our own existence? Are we just a small species on a tiny planet, orbiting a star that will one day also come to an end? When we look at these distant planets, these cosmic wonders, and their unspeakable dangers, the truth begins to reveal itself. Earth, with all its flaws, its problems and challenges, is still the only place we can truly call home. The universe, with its vastness and immensity, reminds us of our own fragility, of the vulnerability we share as living beings. The idea of exploring other planets has fascinated us since the early days of space exploration, and we cannot deny the grandeur and possibility of a future in which humanity can venture beyond the limits of the solar system. But as we discover more about the worlds around us, we are faced with an inescapable fact. The cosmos, as a whole, is far from hospitable. Even the stars we see shining in the sky, many of them are alive, burning and exploding with an intensity that threatens any life form nearby. Supernovae, with their cataclysmic explosions, release enough energy to destroy entire planets, as if they were simple pieces of a cosmic puzzle. Black holes, with their irresistible gravitational force, swallow everything in their path, erasing stars, planets, and even light. The search for a new home in space is not just a physical exploration, but also a spiritual and philosophical quest. What happens to humanity when faced with the vast unknown? How do we deal with the idea that, although we can reach the stars, we are unable to control the dangers they impose on us? The cosmos, with all its beauty and mystery, also carries a disconcerting truth. We are small before it. The Earth, our home, may be our only chance for survival. But this makes us reflect on an even deeper point. Are we really prepared for what the universe can offer us? How far can we go without breaking the laws that govern physics and biology? The search for extraterrestrial life, for colonies on other planets, is fueled by the desire to expand our presence beyond Earth. But are we ready for the risks that this journey involves? Mars may be the future of space exploration, but until then, we will have to face a set of problems of unprecedented magnitude. Can living conditions on other planets, such as Pluto, Mercury, and even Jupiter's moons, such as Io and Europa, really support human beings? Or would our presence there be an act of self-sabotage? Now, I ask you to put yourself in the shoes of an astronaut, preparing to descend on a planet that appears to be as beautiful as it is deadly. You face the unknown, not knowing exactly what you will find, just the certainty that you need to survive. What would you do? Which planet would you choose? The unbearable heat of Venus, Jupiter's devastating winds, or the icy immensity of Neptune? Let us know in the comments below. Which of these planets do you think would be the worst to live on? And more importantly, what would you do to survive? As science, physics, and even astronomy have shown us, the fight for survival in the cosmos is a journey full of mysteries and risks. Think about this for a moment. In the end, what we are all looking for is the answer to a simple but profound question. What will happen to us when the Earth is no longer enough? What lies beyond our solar system, beyond the stars that light up our nights? As humanity looks to the future, the cosmos becomes the stage for our greatest adventure, but also our greatest threat. Leave your ideas in the comments. Which planet would you choose to try to live on? What would it take to survive in a place where human life seems impossible? Let's continue this conversation and explore more mysteries of the universe together. I'd love to know what you think about these cosmic challenges and how you imagine humanity could overcome them. Now, if you're enjoying this journey through the cosmos, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Only then will you be able to follow each new discovery and dive deeper into this vast and mysterious universe with us. And stay tuned, because in the next video, we will unravel a cosmic mystery that will change the way you see the universe forever. Get ready, because what's coming will leave anyone speechless. I'll wait for you in the next video. See you then.